How a single mistake changed history forever. One Roman general made a single decision that lasted less than 5 seconds. He pointed left instead of right. That tiny gesture, moving his arm a few inches in a different direction, killed 20,000 Roman soldiers, destroyed 3 entire legions, and changed the course of Western civilization forever. I'm your host, and what you're about to discover will haunt you. The smallest actions can have the most catastrophic consequences. This isn't just a story about military disaster. It's about how one moment of bad judgment in a German forest rewrote the map of Europe and altered human history for the next 2,000 years. Hit subscribe right now because this tale of the ultimate butterfly effect will change how you think about every decision you make. But here's what makes this story truly terrifying. General Verus had no idea his decision was wrong. In his mind, he was making a perfectly logical choice based on reliable intelligence from his most trusted advisor. He couldn't see that every piece of information guiding his decision was a lie. The mistake wasn't obvious stupidity. It was reasonable judgment based on deliberately false information. And that makes it even more chilling, because it means anyone could make the same catastrophic error. I'm about to show you exactly how 5 seconds of misdirection in September 9th AD created a chain reaction that's still affecting our world today. Chapter 1. The Setup. Everything looks perfect. General Publius Quintilius Verus was everything Rome wanted in a provincial commander: experienced, competent, and absolutely convinced of Roman superiority. He governed Syria successfully and was now bringing Roman civilization to Germania with 3 full legions. His most trusted advisor was Arminius, a Germanic prince who'd been educated in Rome, served in Roman legions, and earned Roman citizenship through loyal service. If anyone understood both Roman and Germanic culture, it was Arminius. In late summer 9 AD, Arminius brought disturbing but manageable news. Germanic tribes were rebelling against Roman rule, but they were disorganized, retreating through difficult terrain, and could be crushed easily with quick Roman intervention. Here's what Verus couldn't know. Every single piece of this intelligence was fabricated. There was no rebellion. The retreating tribes were actually 20,000 warriors, positioning themselves for the greatest ambush in military history. When Arminius offered to guide the Roman response personally, Verus saw proof of loyalty. In reality, he was being led into a trap that would destroy everything he'd worked to build. The decision point: left or right. On the morning of September 9th, 9 AD, Verus reached a fork in the forest path. 2 routes led deeper into the Teutoburg forest. Arminius pointed left, toward a narrow trail that would allow Romans to surprise the retreating rebels. Verus had perhaps 5 seconds to decide: left toward the narrow forest trail, or right toward the wider, more defensible route. Every piece of intelligence suggested left was correct. His most trusted advisor recommended left. Military logic supported left. Verus pointed left. That simple arm movement, lasting maybe 2 seconds, set in motion events that would kill 20,000 Romans, end Roman expansion into Germania, and redraw the map of Europe. Think about this moment. If Verus had pointed right instead of left, Germanic tribes might have remained Roman provinces, German might be a Romance language today, and the entire history of Europe would be unrecognizable. The trap springs, 3 days of horror. The left path led into a nightmare. As the Roman column stretched through narrow forest trails, Arminius and his loyal Germanic auxiliaries simply melted away into the trees. The betrayal was complete. Suddenly, 20,000 Germanic warriors attacked from all directions. Romans found themselves fighting enemies who knew every tree, while they stumbled through unfamiliar terrain, carrying equipment that had become a liability. By the second day, Roman discipline was cracking. The narrow path had forced them into a stretched-out column that couldn't form proper defensive formations. Every clearing was a killing ground. Every turn in the path held more ambushes. On the third day, General Varus fell on his sword rather than be captured. The remaining Romans made desperate final stands, but the outcome was inevitable. Germanic warriors had turned the forest into a machine for killing Romans. When it was over, 3 entire Roman legions, 17, 18, and 19, had been completely destroyed. The legion numbers were retired forever. 20,000 Romans died because their general pointed left instead of right. The immediate shockwaves. When news reached Rome, Emperor Augustus reportedly banged his head against walls, screaming, "Varus, do me back my legions!" The psychological impact was devastating. Rome's aura of invincibility was shattered. Augustus immediately abandoned all plans to conquer Germania. The Rhine became Rome's permanent northern frontier instead of a temporary staging area for further expansion. One decision had redrawn the empire's borders. Roman citizens were suddenly reluctant to serve in legions that could be completely destroyed by barbarians they'd been taught to despise. But here's what's truly remarkable. This wasn't just a military defeat. Varus's 5-second decision created psychological trauma that affected Roman strategic thinking for the next 400 years. Roman generals became obsessed with auxiliary troop loyalty and Germanic intelligence. The empire that had been built on trusting local allies suddenly couldn't trust anyone. Chapter 2. The long-term consequences. Rewriting Europe. If Varus had pointed right, Germanic tribes might have been Romanized like Gaul and Spain. German could have evolved into a Romance language related to French and Italian instead of remaining Germanic. Christianity spread through the Roman Empire. That independent Germania developed its own religious traditions. Varus's decision helped create the Protestant Reformation 1,500 years later by keeping Germanic culture separate from Roman Christianity. Think about this. World War I, World War II, the Holocaust. Would any of these have happened if Germanic tribes had become Roman provinces in 9 AD? One arm gesture in a forest might have prevented the darkest chapters of European history. Varus's mistake helped create the fundamental cultural divide between Mediterranean Europe and Northern Europe that still influences politics, economics, and social structures today. The technological impact. Roman engineering and technology never fully penetrated Germanic territories. Roads, aqueducts, urban planning, and administrative systems that transformed other provinces never reached independent Germania. Independent Germanic tribes developed military traditions that eventually produced the warrior cultures that destroyed the Western Roman Empire. Varus's decision literally created the forces that would conquer Rome. Here's what's mind-blowing. Roman Germania might have become an economic powerhouse that prevented the Western Empire's collapse. Instead, it became the source of the barbarian armies that finished Rome off. The modern world implications. The political fragmentation of Germania that began with Varus's mistake contributed to the European nation-state system. Roman provinces typically remained unified, but independent Germania split into hundreds of competing territories. Would Germany have led the Industrial Revolution if it had been Romanized? Roman territories typically developed different economic structures than independent Germanic regions. Germanic philosophical traditions that influenced everything from the Reformation to modern nationalism developed in opposition to Roman culture. Varus's mistake helped create the intellectual foundations of modern Europe. What if I told you that your morning commute, the language you speak, the religion you practice, and the political system you live under were all influenced by a Roman general pointing left instead of right 2,000 years ago. Chapter 3. The Psychology of Catastrophic Decisions. Varus's mistake reveals how catastrophic decisions often result from misplaced trust rather than obvious stupidity. He trusted Arminius because all the evidence suggested Arminius was trustworthy. Arminius had spent years building false credibility specifically to make this moment possible. He weaponized Varus's rational decision-making process against it. What makes this story terrifying is that Varus made the best decision possible with the information available. He wasn't stupid or careless. He was systematically deceived by someone he had every reason to trust. This pattern still happens today in business, politics, and personal relationships. The most devastating betrayals come from people we have the most reason to trust. The alternative timeline. If Varus had pointed right, choosing the wider, more defensible path, his legions might have avoided the ambush entirely. Roman expansion into Germania would have continued, fundamentally altering European development. Roman Germania might have prevented the empire's division into western and eastern halves. A stronger, more unified Roman Empire could have survived barbarian invasions and continued for centuries. Roman engineering, combined with Germanic innovation, might have accelerated technological development by centuries. We might have reached the Industrial Revolution in 500 AD instead of 1500 AD. Most dramatically, the cultural and political unity that Roman rule typically created might have prevented the nationalism and militarism that devastated Europe in the 20th century. The ultimate lesson: Varus's story proves that history isn't driven by grand forces or inevitable trends. It's shaped by individual decisions made in moments of incomplete information and uncertainty. Every decision we make, no matter how small, has the potential to create consequences we can't imagine. The pressure of that responsibility is overwhelming when you truly understand it. The story also reveals the impossible dilemma of leadership. You must trust others to be effective, but that trust can be weaponized against you by those with hidden agendas. Final chapter. And there you have it, how a single 5-second decision in a German forest changed the course of human civilization forever. General Varus pointed left instead of right. In that tiny gesture, reshaped language, religion, politics, and culture for the next 2,000 years. The butterfly effect isn't just a theory. It's the terrifying reality that the smallest actions can have the most massive consequences. What single decision in history do you think had the biggest impact? Do you believe individual choices really shape major historical trends? Let me know in the comments, and share what small decision in your own life might have changed everything. If you love discovering how tiny moments changed everything, you absolutely need to subscribe right now. Next week, I'm revealing Roman torture methods so systematic they turned cruelty into a science. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and remember, every decision you make might be the one that changes everything. So choose wisely. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of history.